My Two Cents is one of the very first channels I have found when it came to this stuff. He actually is very, he's got very remarkable content, I'd say. But like he's one of the first people I found when it came to anarchy in general and anarcho-capitalism, and as I delved into this kind of libertarian kind of style stuff. But I do like a lot of his content. I don't watch all of it because it doesn't always apply to me. A lot of what I understand from anarchy and anarcho-capitalism is very surface level about the free market and all that. What I understand is very surface level, but so I can only cover so many things in the news and in other studies, including agorism and whatever. But that being said, I enjoy what I can understand from his content. I can even understand this a little. I get a little bit of good insight from even the things I can't really comprehend the right way. But the great thing about Matt Two Cents' content is that his videos tend to be very straight to the point, and not even just that, but even when they're not straight to the point, they're very in depth when they don't have to be, and they're very rich in information, and the brevity skill, including the pragmatic skill in his content, is very interesting. It's something that I don't always get from other people, even not even the circles I'm into lately. Like some of the other content creators I'm dealing with in terms of politics. I don't have to diss on them too much, but even compared to them, My Two Cents does things pretty well. He does summarize his point, at least orchestrates and organizes himself pretty well with his political content, and he's very pragmatic, as he claims to be, and indeed approaching his content.
1. Educate people about basic economics. Thomas Sowell's book, Basic Economics, was my primary inspiration in this regard. In today's day and age, many politicians will try and convince you that the economy is such a complicated beast. But the truth of the matter is, economics itself isn't complicated at all. At its core is the reality of scarcity. There is a limited amount of resources that have multiple uses. So the question is, how do we best allocate these resources? Whether you're living in a capitalist, a socialist, or a mixed economy, everyone of all stripes is trying to answer this question. You can either give unconditional power to a person or group of persons to decide how all the resources gets allocated. You can allow individuals to allocate them based on voluntary exchanges of their own privately owned resources, or you can try to effect some sort of in-between. But the reality of scarcity doesn't change.
Coming to the first of 3 items he has for this video, I'd have to say that economics is something that I definitely had a gambit with. You know, when I learned economics in high school, it wasn't like, just assets and liabilities. There was more to it than that I probably remember, even with my own memory. But economics is indeed probably not complicated. It's probably just something that they bladed because they didn't know how to, like, they actually, well, even further than that, not so much ignorance, but even the agenda that they didn't want people to learn how, as he'll say later on in this video, not the propagandization of the education system, having people told what to think and not necessarily how to think. And so that's what you get throughout this same one video. But economics is indeed not something that you have to overcomplicate. Even if there are intricate parts to it, you have to find those out for yourself. And one kind of phrasing I like with economics is like the books are called applied economics, because applied always got my attention every once in a while. You know, the combinatorics textbooks I read once in a while are called applied combinatorics. And I'm not using it as a buzzword. I really mean that when something really is actually applied, you do apply it to your concrete, discrete life. You don't have to make it so complicated that, even for me, my sake at least, you don't have to make it, even for me, you have to make it so complicated that you don't know how to use it. You can apply some form of it in a simple manner, or even a more fleshed out manner, but it doesn't have to be like so. When economics concerns money and finances, you don't want that to be complicated anyways, at least not all the time. You want the idea of your finite resources in general, if I had to make an example, to be something that you can actually measure.
Step 2. Don't send your children to public school. Public schools, thanks to the Department of Education, have become little more than liberal re-education centers. While American students are outperformed all over the world, the U.S. continues to throw money at failing public school systems with worse results. For anyone interested in seeing a thorough documentation of this, check out the book Crimes of the Educators: How Utopians Are Using Government Schools to Destroy America's Children by Samuel Blumenfeld and Alex Newman. If you care at all about your children, pay to send them to a better private school, or if you can't afford that, homeschool them. Even if you work to counteract what public schools are teaching by talking to your children at home, your kids are likely to absorb a lot of leftist ideas without really thinking critically about it, especially when they're younger. I would recommend keeping them homeschooled at least until they're in their teens and have had an opportunity to develop critical thinking skills. In fact, this is exactly what schools should be teaching: how to think. Instead, they're teaching what to think and actively suppressing the ability to think.
Now, with the children and the education system thing, yeah, I already understand like what the value of homeschooling and even private schooling is. Like, it's not so much of an escapism. It's more of an actual like a proper indoctrination. You don't I don't even know if that's even a phrase, accurate phrasing, but I mean indoctrination on both ends of that, whether good or bad. But you don't want your children to know the wrong things, or I mean, not even that oversimplified, but you don't want your children to just suddenly think that because something is undeniably true that it can never be denied. I mean the ability to debunk things and the ability to actually think for yourself is very attuned. It's very keen. It's very beautiful. You don't want to lose that, even if you're wrong about what you debunk or wrong about what you believe. It's just, if you can teach that from the foundational core, you're at least better off than someone who believes something that is true but doesn't have to be any better off in that light. Now, that's supposed to be a good thing anyways, but when you obviously know the wrong things, or you don't know any of the better things, and that's an obvious problem. But in general, being able to learn from a core foundation of how to think and what you can use to your disposal as tools to think, then you're way better off than the person who doesn't have to know anything because of how they don't know how to think, and how they would think otherwise because of what you told them to think. So yeah.
A warlord is a person who, one way or another, has obtained a monopoly on force. He has the means to demand that the people give him their belongings, or else he will force them to do so at the point of a gun, or perhaps kill them or imprison them. A warlord can at any moment break down your door, take your things, and then leave, getting away with it so long as there is no one who is willing or able to stop him. But what then is a state? A state is a person or group of persons who has a monopoly on force, usually in the form of the police and military. It has the means to demand that people give them their belongings, usually through taxes, or else men with guns will come and take these things from you by force and or throw you in prison. Agents of the government can at any moment break down your door, take your things, and get away with it so long as there is no one willing or able to stop them. The only difference between a warlord and a state is that the state is perceived as legitimate, while the warlord is not. One may wear military fatigues and carry an AK-47. The other may have its members dressed in suit and ties, carrying M4 carbines. But aside from the physical appearance and perceived legitimacy, they both do exactly the same thing.
Government is what people say it is. It is justified only by what people think of it. And I think that was a brilliant saying before I became more of an anarchist myself. But, you know, and I still stand true by that. That was a more general foundational core thing. Even if I'm wrong in the sense that after what I'm understanding about it now. But they're truly not as distinguishable from any other class, any other group of sovereign citizens or whatever, or what have you. But other individual classes, etc. Government does not have to be a standing body of centralism, but that's kind of what they kind of already are, is centralism, is central planning, all that. But with government, you don't have to, whether they are or aren't defined by as one kind of idle body, or not just centralism, but even just having to define them as anything, accurate or not. But they are indistinguishable because they don't have an identity. I maybe that correct me if I'm wrong about that, but because they don't have a central identity, rather a central planning fund, but like they don't have a central identity, you don't have to distinguish them from any other good or bad group, and because of that, they can inevitably be bad, not just good.
It's simple to see in this one-person example, but more easily obscured when looking at a large and intricate economy like those found in the modern First World. When you consider a billionaire's net worth, it may sound like they have billions of dollars in cash simply sitting under their beds not being used. But the reality is that whatever levels of currency a billionaire may possess, their net worth actually represents a large but limited amount of resources put towards certain uses, as does anyone's net worth. No one really wants money for the sake of having money. To become wealthier, an individual needs access to a larger pool of resources, all of which remain finite no matter what.
This is exactly why I wanted to become more acquainted with my farms and my food markets, my farms, my communities, my neighbors. They say in survival that one of the most important things you do for survival is to know your neighbor. Not so much to respect your neighbor, know thy neighbor from the Bible, whatever, but like actually being acquainted with who you're with in your local arena. Because if you can become their friends and their allies, you're able to do this in a way that not only keeps you safe, but even has you at a benefit of knowing how to collect those other resources that you can't always have access to, and serving to them, not only just to help them, but to also have their alliance with you, so that you can help them get something that they can reach, so that they can also reach things that you can't reach, and that works together pretty well. That interlinks is very brilliant, and that's probably what my 2 cents is saying here. This second video of 2 that I have for the playlist is that you can only do so much for yourself. I mean, I'm saying this from a survival perspective, but even just having resources in general, that's more valuable than actually having the financial accumulation. Now, many people, even normies and traditional people alike, I'm sorry, but even many normies know that money is fake, and so it's like, but it doesn't have to be like that for many other reasons. I think, like, especially in the ideals of cryptocurrency and other innovations, there's an ideal of it that goes beyond fiat currency, and that doesn't have to be as fake. But I digress. It's just, you notice this, like with resources are not everything, but you can do enough with them because they are finite. You have to make the most of them, but you know that even without them, how brutal things can be. So you have to make the most of them while still limited, while still scarcity in the market is a thing that has its own reality. You still know what to do with them. At least I hope you do. But yeah, this is not new news or anything like that, but it is helpful to know and reassure us that finite resources and the supply and demand are a thing that's gent here.
The crux of the matter is that no matter who sits in the White House or who controls Congress, there is a limited amount of resources in the economy. There is a limited amount of labor, a limited amount of capital, and a limited amount of time in a day. Therefore, whether we're talking about the minimum wage, government-funded education efforts, regulations in the healthcare industry, or any other issue, we're not really talking about government providing something that simply wasn't being used before. We're talking about government, by force, demanding that citizens take resources that are currently being used for one purpose and using them for a different purpose. Whether through taxation to fund a new government program, price controls to compel higher wages and lower prices, or direct central planning, politicians are promising to deprive one group of citizens of a certain good or service so that a different group of citizens can have a different good or service. They may try to argue that this is justified, but they aren't promising to create something that wasn't there before. They're promising to steal something and put it towards a different use.
And I could comment on that last clip from the second video of the playlist from anarcho-capitalism, but I could probably actually also leave it here too. So if I do, I think this could actually be the end of the video. I'll just leave that open-ended for the last clip. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's been Marchscarf, and I'll see you in the next claymation or Agorist, people say alike, or Agorist claymation, I guess. Claymation in general to Dr. ABC. If you want to see that, Dr. ABC's on I can link that as well, or show you guys the link on the comments below. But or if that's even allowed, I guess. But I will show you Dr. ABC every once in a while what type of claymations in general, or even other content from there. But the Marchscarf channel will continue to have video essays like these, or even just content related to politics and memes or whatever. And having to actually do with the claymation Agorist video essays, that will be still continuous, hopefully in the future. I haven't really animated much in this video, but I mean the trailer had a little animation, so I just wanted to make this video while I could. So, you know, yeah, okay. Take care, guys. Bye. And see you next time for another claymation Agorist video.